Please make sure that your microphone is on. Please make sure that the mic is on.
I see, it's been a while. Okay. Yes, he's by Zoom, that's what I said. One will be joining us by Zoom. One of them is not here. So we have 6 candidates here to, or 3, 4, 5, 6 candidates here to take questions. Now, before I start, I want to let you know where the questions came from. These were furnished to me by the president of United, who compiled them from suggestions that were made by people on her board. We also have been advertising for residents to send in questions to info@lagunawoodsvillage.com. You can continue to do that even after the forum is over, and they will be sent to the candidates and they can answer them for you then. We could not do all of the questions. We only have a certain amount of time. So, but we took the ones that were most representative and not specific to one candidate. We had quite a few that were specific to one candidate. And so we gave that to that candidate. For those of you who did get the questions that were sent out yesterday, if you want to include any of that in your opening or closing statements, that's fine. The other thing is, as we go through the questions, if there is a question that you particularly would like to answer that is not given to you, make a note of it, and you can answer that in your closing statement. The other thing I wanted to emphasize to everybody is this is your voting. Your ballot is out. Inside in a white envelope is the ballot that you are going to mark. You put it in this pink envelope and you sign the back of the envelope. It says very clearly, unsigned return envelopes will invalidate the ballot and not be counted. 500 residents did not sign the envelope, and their ballots were not counted in our last election. So please be sure that you sign your envelope. The other thing I wanted to mention, and I would ask our candidates, please, just to show respect. We do not use people's names in any of our answers. You can use positions if you feel you need to, but we do not talk about people specifically by name. All right, we're going to start with our opening statements, and each candidate will have 3 minutes for their opening statement. They can see the clock right in front of them that will be running, and you have 3 minutes. When it gets down, we will shut you off. And Mark, since you cannot see the clock, I will be, excuse me, Grant will be your timekeeper, and we will let you know when your time is almost up. All right, let's start. I'm going to go alphabetically by first name, since we're on a nice first name basis with everybody. And our first candidate is Anthony Liberatore.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name's Anthony Liberatore, and I'm very happy to be able to ask you for your vote today. My background is in 1970. I came into corporate America with Metropolitan Life Insurance in Kansas City, Missouri. I was licensed in Kansas. I was licensed in Missouri. Then I spent the next 39 years in the maritime industry, from 72 to 86 in the ports of Philadelphia. From 86 to 97, I took a position with the Pasha Group out of San Rafael, California, and worked in the ports of LA, Long Beach, San Diego, Richmond, Benicia. And I retired, and before I retired, retirement was coming up in 2009 with the Carrick's Enterprise Company. I started with them in 97, retired in 2009, but in 2005 I opened up 2 logistics companies, one here in California and one in Malta. What's logistics? Logistics is the activity or activities involved in marketing and distribution of goods and services from the producer to the end user. Linda, my wife, and I moved here in 2012 after I retired, and I was nominated to the United Board. I served there for the 3 years, and I headed up the ad hoc committee on water conservation to help United reach the demands of the El Toro Water District. We were successful doing that. I also headed up the ad hoc committee on walkway lighting. We did all the walkway lighting, changed it over to LEDs, and at the urging of my fellow directors, we came in 4 months ahead of time and $1 million under budget. Then I was chair on the VMS board, the first chair when we started the VMS board, served 3 years there. Then I was reappointed to United, and I stayed on United to this past January when COVID and some other medical issues affected my wife. And so then I retired. But I'm here again now, and with that, let me tell you that I am ready to tackle the elephant in the room. That's insurance, and to bring civility back to the boardroom. Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony. Our next candidate is Diane Casey. Diane, your opening statement.
Okay. Well, good afternoon. So my name is Diane Casey, and I have lived in Laguna Woods for going on 17 years. I moved here in 2004, and I am a CPA. I got licensed in 1991, and I have been involved in business, in working with homeowners associations as clients. And so I've been on the board of companies and HOAs, including my HOA that I lived in prior to Laguna Woods in Laguna Niguel. So over the 17 years, I've been involved in a lot of clubs for fun, clubs I was interested in, leisure wheelers, I had an RV, the dance clubs, the Robert's Rules Study Club, which is a great club. And then I tried to get involved in the board. So over time, I was an advisor on a couple of different finance committees or things like that. But during that time, too, I was babysitting for my grandchildren. And so that was a conflict, so I couldn't really get too involved. Well, my family just moved to Idaho, so I am now available to go to a meeting in a boardroom instead of on Zoom or on GoToMeeting. Because last year, I was elected for a one-year position to fill in for Anthony, and I've been on the United Board for a year. So I've attended, the monthly meetings, the board meetings. I've been on committees like maintenance and construction, governing documents. Right now, the ITAC, which is the committee to try to look for an operational and accounting program that might replace what we have. And so we've had some great presentations from software companies, which I've enjoyed. I did a lot of that in my practice, installing software for medium-sized companies. And so as a CPA, I bring a lot of financial expertise, budgeting, finance documents, and, I hope you get to vote for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane. Our next candidate is Lenny Ross. Lenny?
Thank you, Madam. I'd like to start out by saying a little bit about my background. I graduated from USC, University of Southern California, with a bachelor's degree in business, and then went on to Arizona State University, got my master's in business administration. Next, I developed, through my career, I developed and sold automotive accessories to OEM automotive customers, including wheels and entertainment systems. And I've lived in Laguna Woods 6 years. While in Laguna Woods, I was former president and treasurer of United Corporation. And why am I running for the board or rerunning for the board? And my number one goal is to try to lower HOA assessments. How am I going to do that? We need to change the mindsets within our community. Most of us have worked in profit corporations and before, and we need to treat our United Corporation as a for-profit versus a not-for-profit corporation. We must understand that retirees have choices of retirement locations. And as our HOA assessments continue to escalate, it reduces the interest of retirees to select Laguna Woods over other competing retirement options. And that's why we have to make sure we continue the demand for retirees for our community. Ways we can reduce HOA assessments. Well, number one is we can decide to have all outside vendors competitively bid every 2 years, if they're not already, with target price of 10% under their last successful bid. And we would make that mandatory to getting new bids. Another choice, another option, is we can ask all department managers with budget responsibility to submit an annual plan to achieve a 10% reduction in current year spending while maintaining same service level. Another thing that profit corporations do is, if necessary, you initiate a hiring freeze if needed to reduce spending. We are also, in my opinion, over-reserving. Around 25% of our co-ops have been upgraded. However, we still reserve for 100% of the co-ops as if none of our units have been upgraded. So we now can reserve on the basis that 75% of co-ops will need.
Time has expired.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lenny. Our next candidate is Maggie Blackwell. Maggie, your opening statement.
Okay, thank you. I'm Maggie Blackwell. I'm running for the board, United this time. I know you all received this ballot, and I know that you have read the information on this ballot. And so I will not repeat the information on this ballot because it will also be repeated in the Globe next week. So I'd prefer to talk about other topics, and the one I choose right now is meeting orders. In court every day, I knew the system was set up so that both sides had equal time. Both sides were allowed small interruptions on legal questions only, but then each one had their own time to present evidence and to present testimony. We all knew that we had that, so we didn't have to stand up and yell at the judge anytime to get recognition to speak for 5 or 10 minutes on something that we wanted to review right now, rather than waiting for our own time. That is the kind of thing which is happening in United. People get anxious that they will not be heard. If they know they will be heard at the right time, their anxiety level will go lower, their arguments will get better, and it's easier to listen to them. Agenda prep meeting is held 7 business days before regular board meetings. All directors should be there to discuss and vote on the agenda. If an issue comes up after that, the president should be notified, and the director or directors ascertain the legality of including the issue without prior notice. Arguing over an agenda at a board meeting should be a very rare occurrence. In United, however, it is not. It should be noted for the record that the processes used in the monthly financial inspection have been discussed and approved by the United Attorneys several times. The financial inspection, ordinarily on the consent calendar, should remain on the consent calendar and passed without the 5-minute monthly voiced objection by the director, which alarms and confuses residents. So that's two, and we're not even to the middle of the agenda. Robert's Rules says reports are to be heard and received. So lengthy question and answer sessions over CEO or COO.
Time has expired.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Time is up. All right. Mark, you're up next. Would you give us your opening statement? You're muted, Mark. You need to turn your mic on. Is your mic turned on, Mark? We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Now we can, yes, please. We'll start your time now.
Okay, terrific. Awesome. All right. Well, first of all, I want to apologize for my grubby appearance. I am presently on a golf trip with 7 of my college friends, and they're out playing the back nine at Heritage Glen, but I thought it was important enough for me to be here today. We're in Michigan having a great time. But before I get to anything substantive, I would like you to take down my email address, and that is mark.greenman@yahoo.com. If you know anything to write with, it's very easy. It's my name, Mark Greenman @yahoo.com. I'm going to ask you to reference this a number of times today. To know me, you have to know a little bit about my story. And for most of my adult life, I was a very successful attorney. I practiced in the area of plaintiff's employment law. I represented former employees who were illegally fired. And I rarely lost, and I had a very successful appellate record. I had 4 successful appeals at the 8th Circuit Court of Appeals, which is one step below the U.S. Supreme Court. And none of my peers had so many successful appeals. At the same time, while I was a very highly successful attorney, I was also a very, very, very highly functioning alcoholic. And then, like with most addictions, my alcoholism caught up to me in a big way. And very bad things started happening to me. Alcohol cost me my marriage, my profession, my freedom. After several failed attempts to get sober, starting in 2013, I discovered the drug naltrexone and started taking that in April 2017. So on April 30th of next year, I'll be sober for 5 years. And I have embraced sobriety like you cannot believe. Life has never, ever been better for me. I am firing on all cylinders, probably better than I have since I was in my 20s. I have a new outlook on life. And I kind of 4 things guide me. Number 1, I always tell the truth. Number 2, I don't have secrets. Number 3, it makes me feel good to do good things for people. Number 4, I'm an open book. If you want to email me about anything in my past, feel free. My email again, mark.greenman@yahoo.com, including the things that made me feel good. Good things that made me feel good was I wrote a paper about naltrexone to help people like me get better. And if you want that paper, or anybody you know, everybody knows that somebody with a drinking problem, please email me, and I'll send you the paper.
Time's expired.
I'd be happy to.
Mark, your time
I
is
thought
up.
I had a warning. I thought I had a warning before my time was up.
Our apologies.
You're not hearing. All
Can I
right.
have 30 seconds?
No, you'll have time throughout the right time. And you're closing, you
Well,
can have
but
that.
I'm
All right,
sorry.
our
I-
next
Brad-
candidate is
Time closing up.
Pat English. Pat, your opening statement?
Yes, my name is Pat English, and I'm hoping that I will be elected because I understand the problems that United are going through now. And I do believe that I could be most helpful. Both my education and my experience will be very helpful. During my time as treasurer of United, which was about 4 years, I think, I was able to keep the rentals down. We didn't exceed 8, I'm going to say 9%, just to give an extra percent. We didn't have any rentals more than 9% in United. On top of that, I'm going to give you a brief rundown of myself. I graduated from the University of Hawaii at the age of 41. Pretty old, eh? Anyway, I was with my husband most of the time, and he was in the RCAF, so I didn't have any opportunity to gain education. In 1979, my husband, my oldest son, and myself, we sailed from Oxnard, California to Hilo, Hawaii in our 41-foot Formosa ketch. At that time, I was about 40 units short of a degree. During our time in Hawaii, I was able to complete a degree in business administration. During that time, I also worked for a CPA firm. Since the Big Island of Hawaii had a section of University of Hawaii, when I returned to California, I worked in a local CPA firm and was offered a position of the head of auditing department, even though I was not certified. I turned this offer down since DCAA, DOD were considering hiring me as an auditor analyst. In 1989, DCAA hired me, and I stayed with them until 2006 as an auditor and analyst. During that time, I traveled through former Soviet countries and audited them. There was all sorts of audits that we did there. And about 2 years and I thought I was retired, but I ran for the United Board Mutual and became their president for about 2 years, maybe a bit less, and their treasurer for about 4 years. After that, I applied for the grand jury, since law was one of my main interests. I was a grand juror from 2020 to 2021. A grand juror must serve for 1 year. Upon asking about Mutual, some of my friends mentioned how difficult it was. Please vote for me. Thank you.
Okay. Our next, looks like last candidate is Pearl Lee. Pearl, your opening statement, please.
Hi, my name is Pearl Lee, and I have been a resident in Laguna.
Your microphone? No, press the button down at the bottom.
Here? Down. My name is Pearl Lee.
The green light goes on. There you go.
Okay. Hi, my name is Pearl Lee, and I have been a resident in Laguna Wood Village for last 3 years. My friends often refer me to Pearl with kimchi power. What it suggests is that I'm from Korea, and I'm well seasoned, and I get better as time goes by. I have a bachelor's degree in hospital dietetics from University of Illinois. Until I retired in 2015, I have managed 100-bed assisted living facility for elderlies in Arizona for 30 years. My facility was considered as mom and pop store compared to the large facilities that were owned by big corporations. I had to struggle to compete, and I had to struggle to survive. And I did survive, and I was able to successfully retire in 2015. During those times, I had to balance my budget every month against rising costs. I had to deal with resident service issues, employee issues, and repairs and improvement of the facility to meet the state requirements. After 30 hard working years, I took a very long break. Now I am ready to go back to work to serve my community. I'm energetic, I'm positive, I'm open-minded, and funny. I like to work on issues that we must work on rather than we like to work on by prioritizing our tasks. There's no easy answer or the quick fix to our complex problems. But I believe through our common sense approach and working together towards solving these problems with a time limit will get us to our goals. We must work together with determination and toughness and focus on real problems with real solutions that will benefit us all. Thank you.
Thank you, Pearl. All right, we're going to go around with questions now. You have 2 minutes to answer the question. Please be aware of the time. And we'll go back and start with Anthony. Anthony, please share what current policy within your mutual, United, you would change and why.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. The policy that I am concerned about is the way we buy insurance. And coming from a company that owns its own insurance company, I would have to see and experiment with the idea of having our own insurance company. So the policy of going from broker to broker is going from pillar to post. We're not accomplishing anything, and I believe the insurance is going to eat us up if we don't do something about it. Thank you.
Okay. Next, Diane. Diane, would you please explain the differences between reserve and contingency funds and how they are funded?
Thank you for that question, Madam Chair. The reserve is based.
Please make sure your microphone's on.
Thank you again for that question, Madam Chair. The reserve is set up to fund money that's set aside for infrastructure, buildings, items that are long-term. It's usually, it usually has a reserve study. So an HOA would hire a firm to come in and analyze the community, look at all the buildings, and assess a life expectancy and a cost, a replacement cost. And so it's up to the board to make an assessment that funds the reserve and allows that to build over years, because you're not going to be able to put all that money in right away. It's going to take time. And a contingency fund is for unexpected things in the short term. So, we have also funded a contingency fund, and that money sits there waiting to see, and we might have a contract that is set up to do something that we expect in the short term to have done. Or we might, it might be more expedient where we have to get this done and it wasn't in the budget or it wasn't in the reserve. And so that is the contingency fund. Thank you.
Thank you. Lenny, please share what items in the 2022 budget for United Mutual that concern you the most and why?
I think the item, agreeing with Anthony, was that the item that concerns me the most is the insurance and for fire insurance. Specifically, we need to have fire insurance, otherwise we can't continue to have NCB provide loans for new people trying to buy our properties. And approximately 20% of all purchasers for our co-ops are financed through NCB. Right now, they've turned off the program completely because there's no insurance. And we definitely need to find a way to get insurance back, and we need to get new bids done, and we need to select from a competitive assortment of bidders the best selection for insurance that's affordable and most competitive. And we need to do that right away because we can no longer not deal with this problem. It's a very, very important issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Lenny. Maggie, would you please explain the difference between a condo and a co-op?
Okay, in a condo, you buy a piece of property, you buy a building, you buy a piece of property. There is a delineation between yours and the neighbors, and the building may be shared walls or whatever, but you own that part. So you have a deed in your hand. You are purchasing physical things. In a co-op, you are purchasing a membership in the co-op and the ability to use the facilities, and especially you may signify which particular unit you wish to lease is actually what you're doing. And so you can work inside the co-op in ways you can get alterations if they are approved, but the building itself remains the property of United, and the land, of course, remains the property of United. And this is the big problem for the funding that we are having from NCB. The companies do not like to stand in second place. And when United owns the property, United is not going to give you a loan. So we prefer cash buyers right now until NCB can agree. It always agrees to let us stand first in case their debt arises. We cannot allow other people to stand first so that we do not get paid when debt arises. Thank you.
Thank you, Maggie. Mark, your first question is, what are the governing documents of United Mutual, and where would you find them?
Mr. Agreement, I will provide a audible warning at 30 seconds.
Thank you. I think the primary governing documents are the bylaws, and those can probably be found by the community center, I would imagine. And one of the things about the bylaws is that it's very important that United and GRF and Third Mutual abide by the bylaws and don't act outside of the scope of the bylaws. I know for a fact that a board got in trouble legally for acting outside of the scope of their bylaws. And that's going to be something that, as a lawyer, I'm going to be able to recognize and to know when things are and are not proper. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Pat, your first question is, what background and experience do you bring to the board, and how will it help make you a good board member?
Okay, well, one particular one is I have reviewed many resales, and I have a degree in business administration, and a lot of my work was in foreign countries where I had to have an interpreter. Not that we're likely to have that situation here, but it all helps. I also owned a motel and an HVAC company. Those were very challenging. We had to really watch the cash flow, and that's what it's like here. We've certainly got to square away this insurance problem. It's a real problem. And another thing we don't want to do is we don't want to be doing deficit financing. Deficit financing is when you budget more than what you've got. And I'm afraid we might be in that position if we're not careful. So anyway, that's about all I have to say. I'm sure I could find some more things that I've done that have been helpful. Working in a CPA firm reviewing homeowners association, auditing homeowners association audits. About 100 I've done of those. And that was a local CPA firm here. That's about it, but I'm sure I've got a lot of other things that I've done that would be helpful to United. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pat. Pearl, what are your top 3 goals if you are elected to the United Board?
My 3 goals is to help establishing the stability of the financial stability of our corporation. Number 2 is improve our communication with the residents. And also through education, our mutual board members can have a better understanding of the role that we must play between the corporation and the residents. Number 3, I would like to see the resident services, improving our resident services in order to meet the need of our residents. And overall, I would like to see the open communication and honest communication between our board members and to our residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Pearl. All right, we'll go back to you, Anthony. Please share what sources you access to be an informed resident owner.
An informed resident owner of a co-op has to understand the basic concept of a co-op. And the basic concept of a co-op is that people come together with their meager means. Joining them together, they become a power. And that's why I like a co-op. No big corporation can come in and buy one of us out. They have to buy the whole corporation out. Whereas in third, people can come in and buy each other out, or they can come in and declare eminent domain. So I have always been in admiration of the process of a co-op, because in a co-op you have power. We don't use it very much here, but that's my whole philosophy of a co-op. Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony. All right, Diane, please share a topic that came to a vote in a recent open board of directors meeting that you attended, and tell us how you voted.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair, for that question. And it's the budget. We just had a special meeting this week on the budget. So over this year, there have been many meetings, that the staff have come and presented 3 different times, the budget well, first it was each section, like maintenance and construction, the managers would come and present on that, or landscaping, and then they would come with an overall budget. And so each time we would ask them to go back and see what they could do, how could they get it trimmed. And so finally on the 3rd time, they had gone back again, and one of the board members wanted a specific amount trimmed, so that we could be equal to the to the budget number that we had last year. So they went back, and it was an amazing process. The staff really did a fabulous job in presenting it, and they had 3 scenarios, and we looked at that and debated and debated, and then we came. Then a motion was made to recommend the middle scenario. And so after debating, we went back and voted, and that won. And so we did trim the budget down. And so it was an
Time has
amazing
expired.
process. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane. All right, Lenny, Most states have a set of laws that govern common interest associations. Please share the name of the California Governing Act and what you know about it.
So I think the governing body that controls all the homeowners associations is governed by Davis Sterling, and the procedural rules on how to conduct business is conducted by Robert's Rules. And basically, Davis Sterling spells out etiquette, and if you will, on how the HOAs should perform their business. And Robert's Rules tells basically how to conduct the business. And that's about all. Thank you.
Thank you. Maggie, tell us about what amenities you use in the village.
Well, I use the golf course as frequently as possible. I use 19 as frequently as possible. I have used Clubhouse 1 for all kinds of dancing and line dancing and all those kinds of things, and Friday night parties and things like that. I don't go to the PAC much because the hearing is set a little too high for me, and so I find it uncomfortable to sit there with my hands over my ears while my neighbors are enjoying themselves. I love the music, I love what they put on, but I'm just a little too sensitive for that. So I don't go there as much as I'd like to. I go to Clubhouse 7. I don't go to Clubhouse 6. And Clubhouse 5 I go to for meetings and big parties and things like that. And so I like that clubhouse, it's beautiful. I don't swim in the pools because I'm busy on the grass. But I do have a wonderful time in the village, and I use the Serpentine Walk and all the walkways. I walk everywhere in the village. I love looking at it because I am an ex-landscape member, and so I walk around and assess the landscape and look at what's happening and see if I can explain it and see what looks good and what's bad. And I enjoy the tall trees. I never thought I'd be able to live in such a place with these trees. So I like seeing people as I walk. I just kind of wander around. There is no time limit when you're walking. Just wander around. And so I enjoy most of the facilities. I don't play bowling balls or anything
Time has
like
expired.
that. Thank you.
Thank you, Maggie. Mark, your next question is, how will you promote positive communications and collaboration with fellow board members and with residents of Laguna Woods Village?
In terms of residents, what I would like to do, I'd like to be seen done, is in this day of emails and electronic this and instantaneous that, I would like to see like strategically placed old-fashioned suggestion boxes placed throughout the co-op areas. If somebody takes the time to actually write something out and deliver it to the box, I think it's something we should look at. You could say, people say, well, just have an email address. Well, if you do that, then everyone's going to put in their latest rant that they're complaining about. And if you have an actual box, then you're going to have much more well thought out ideas and suggestions. With board members, I think about respect and having to be able to respect losing your position. A lot of times positions are hard fought, and both sides really want their side to win, and when one side doesn't, they have to go back to the drawing board and try to get be persuasive and get the other side to see it their way. So those are probably the two things I would say.
Thank you. Pat, your next question. What are your thoughts on increasing electric vehicle chargers in the village, and where should they be placed?
Well, I think everybody knows that this is a very special one as far as I'm concerned. It is important that we get electric charges. However, I would not be the last person to complain that they'd plugged their electric car into an outlet in the carports and blown all the fuses. I did it. I think I did it myself about 3 times. I think there was a letter in the Globe this last time, too. It was somewhere like that. But the electric charges should be placed in the GRF facilities. GRF should be paying for this. We cannot, by we I mean United, cannot afford to pay for the charges because we would have to get SCE to upgrade the electrical requirements for it. And that would cost us a good many dollars. So I'm 100% for having GRF take care of that. They have the common areas. And we really need to think a lot about these electric charges. I mean, are people really going to go and sit at an electric charger and wait for their car to get charged up again? They're not going to be able to do them in their carports. Now, it's different in Third, because most of Third have either garages or somewhere where they can plug it in, where it only affects their particular electricity. So yes, it's GRF that needs to be putting them in for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. Pearl, your next question. Please share 3 recent topics that you learned about from reading The Village Breeze or the Every Friday What's Up in the Village. What are 3 things that you learned about recently?
Well, one of the things that I've learned recently, it seems like everybody's talking about the insurance topic, and it's very important that we take care of the insurance situation because it will affect immensely with all the shareholders in the United Mutual. The second thing that I hear a lot about, I don't know it's necessarily from the Breeze, but the recent visits with all these voters, I have heard many, many comments about how difficult it is to communicate with our services here. The wait is very, very long, and they are not getting a clear information as to how to direct their complaints, and it will take very long time to see any kind of resolutions, and we have very serious concern from the residents. Another topic that I'm also very concerned is that our infrastructures, because our manors are getting very, very old and our plumbing issues become a very primary, costly issues, and also it will take a long time. And I'm not sure whether I have answer you, to your question, because perhaps it's not on the Friday reviews, but these are the most frequent comments that I've heard from my residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Pearl. All right, we've got time for one more round. I'll go back to Anthony. All right, Anthony, how will you ensure a respectful, productive working relationship with VMS staff?
Thank you for that question, Madam Chair. It all goes back to a ability to develop, and if you don't have it, people skills. You can't get anything done here without consensus with the board and being able and developing people skills to work with staff. We have good staff here. We have a very benign labor contract, and if you can't work with them, there may be something wrong with your people skills. Because the only way to get anything done, and if you read Robert's Rules, if you read Davis Sterling, they all recommend the way to get things done is to reach consensus. And I've already proven myself as the director of the Water Conservation Ad Hoc Committee and also the Lighting Committee. worked with staff, and I couldn't have accomplished what we did without staff. So that's to me, it's very poignant that we reach consensus and that we can't do that if you don't have people skills. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Anthony. Diane, please share if you have ever served as a committee advisor on a board committee. I know you are on the board right now, but in the time before, have you ever served as an advisor? And if so, share that experience and how you feel that contributes to being a board director.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. I just happened to be thinking about that this morning, even though you just mentioned it. But I was remembering that, I don't know how it came up, but I attended a meeting with the GRF Finance Committee, and it was at a time that they were presenting the investment group, that had been with us for many, many, many years. They were handling our portfolio, and they weren't making, it was very stagnant, and they weren't performing. And so one of the fellows was an older fellow, and there was a younger whippersnapper guy, who was presenting. And from that, I did bring up questions about it. I didn't think it was great that they were working for us for so long and were performing better. And so we started an ad hoc committee. So I'm just an advisor. I have no voting power. I mean, all I'm doing is sitting in and sharing my financial knowledge. And I mean, unfortunately, I really couldn't get involved that much because I had just had a grandson and I was babysitting, and a lot of the meetings were on the same days that I babysit. So, but it was so good to find out, that they did continue with that strategy of looking at the financial advisor, and they did switch. So that was a good experience for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane. Lenny, do you understand the time commitment required of a board member, and are you able to commit to this?
Yes, I think I do. From being on the board before and serving as president and treasurer, and it takes a lot of time, and it's something that you have to have available, and you have to have what's called what Anthony refers to as people skills. I think it's very important to be open, honest, and get the respect of your other board members. But the most important thing is to have the flexibility of time, which a lot of us don't have, but you do need that because you need it to serve on the various boards that you're on, the various committees that you're on, and do research independently of that to find out answers to your questions while you're on those particular committees and on those boards. So it does take time, and I think everyone should realize that when you're getting on the board, that you have to be committed to spend that time to make it work and be effective. Thank you.
Thank you, Lenny. Maggie, what are the reasons that you moved to Laguna Woods Village, and what surprised you after you moved here?
Okay, I moved here because one of my golfing friends, I belonged to a traveling golf club, so we played different place twice a month because we were all working. And one of my friends lived here and said, "You must move here when you retire. It is paradise and the golfing is wonderful." So it took me about 5 minutes to figure that out. As I drove down the coast, I did stop at Seal Beach, and I saw no golf course, and I kept driving. And so I came down here, I bought in, and I moved into a unit which I fell into right away. It hadn't even gotten on the market yet, and it was perfect, exactly what I wanted. And so I moved in, and I was surprised at how friendly the people were. I was surprised because I felt like I could walk in to Clubhouse 1 and join almost every meeting and just walk in and say, I'm new here. And have people say, well, come on in, we're this free thinker group, or we're this kind of group, or we're this kind of group. And that was very surprising to me, because I had not experienced that kind of welcoming up in LA. So that was a surprise. But I did move here for the amenities, and it is the amenities I love. I would have moved into a tent to live here. So I'm extremely pleased that I have a unit, and that I have windows and showers and all these wonderful things. And I have neighbors that are close by. That's why I picked United. I live alone, and so I prefer a little neighborhood around me. So it was just a perfect fit. She was so right, and it was great. It was just super. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Maggie. Mark, you ready for your next question? Are you familiar with the procedural rules that are used in board meetings, and can you describe them?
I'm unfamiliar with the procedural rules in the board meetings, but I'm sure they're governed by Robert's rules, which is not substantive but procedural. But all this is contained in the Davis-Sterling Act, which is designed to protect residents against malfeasance and inactions by HOAs. And in my opinion, every member of United should be given a copy of the Davis-Sterling Act. It's only like 6 or 7 pages, so everyone knows what their rights are. Because a lot of times people have no idea what their rights are. And I bet you most people have never even heard of the Davis-Sterling Act. So that's one thing I would really look into having done.
Thank you, Mark. And just for your information, they are given to every board member, and it's a blue book. Maggie has one right there.
No,
That's the Davis-Sterling Act.
I'm talking about the statute. I'm talking about the statute itself.
Okay. Pat, what are the top 3 goals that you have if you're elected to the United Board?
Well, certainly one of my goals would be to try and work with the directors so that there's no more, shall we say, fights, because I think that's what it was. There's no more fights go on, and people agree with each other, or at least agree to disagree. That would be my number 1. My number 2 would be to work very strongly with the insurance company, with the people who are working with the insurance companies, the directors, to try and get that resolved. And then as far as NCP is concerned, I would agree with Lenny that we've got to do something, Lenny and Anthony. We've got to do something to get back NCP. I think it's really bad news that we have no lenders right now. That's not going to help our situation. We see the value of our homes going up, but the question is, would the buyers be able to get a loan? In a lot of cases, the answer would be no, and I'm sorry to say that. So that's pretty much what I think. Well, that's 2 of them. What would be a third one? Well, just to get things organized properly and to work on keeping the value of our houses up, keeping the rentals down and things like that. And as far as, one thing I've noticed is in the cul-de-sac where I live, there's some people that are just throwing trash all over the place, and the place looks like a pigsty. It really looks like a slum. And I'm not really blaming the workers, because I know they do a good job of most of the things they do. But they never seem to clean up around the garbage cans and the laundry rooms. That needs to be done. So, thank you very much.
Thank you, Pat. Pearl, your last question. What are, excuse me, get the right one here. Please share how many board meetings you've attended virtually over the past 12 months.
Well, I was asked to run for the board from the Korean Association in June. Since then, I have watched 2 or 3 board meeting on Zoom because I was out of town, and it was the very first time for me to actually watch the board meeting on Zoom for the last 3 months. And I didn't realize how serious the scope of responsibilities that the board has to overtake. And it was overwhelming at first, and I still feel overwhelmed. And I know that as a new person, I have a lot to learn and a lot to read. And I'm looking forward to my new venture and to work for our community. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Pearl. All right, before we go into your closing statements, and because we had one candidate who did not come, we have a little bit of extra time, so I'm going to be able to give you 3 minutes for your closing statements instead of 2. And if there are any of the questions that were asked today that you weren't asked that you would like to incorporate into that closing statement, please do. But first, the most suggested question from residents that we collected, and this is a simple, please answer with yes, no, or you may pass. They want to know, have you been vaccinated? Anthony?
Yes. February 4th, February 25th, Pfizer.
Okay. Diane?
Yes, I was vaccinated in March, and it's a good thing because I'm going dancing and you have to be vaccinated.
And Lenny?
Yes, I've been vaccinated.
Okay. Maggie?
Yes, and my sister just spent 3 months in the hospital with COVID. She is now, after a couple of weeks of therapy, finally able to stand up, taking a shower. She is now able to brush her own teeth and now able to hold her grandchild on her lap while she is seated. So don't talk to me about civil rights, please.
Thank you, Maggie. Mark, have you been vaccinated?
Yes, I have.
Pat?
Yes. Oh, wait. Yes.
And Pearl?
Yes, I have.
Okay, thank you very much. As I said, that was the most asked question that we got from residents, that they turned them in. And I will remind all residents, if you still have questions, you can send them in to info@lagunawoodsvillage.com, and we will see that they are given to the candidates. All right, now we're going to go around for the closing statements, and you will have 3 minutes to do your closing statement, and if there is any of the other questions that you were given to somebody else that you would like to answer, please do so at this time. Anthony?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to toss out what I had prepared for closing because I want to tell my fellow contestants here and the people at home, I'm really impressed with the tenure of our contestants here, and there is consensus already here. So whether I'm chosen or elected or not, I feel good about the people who are here. We have the beginning of a consensus, people willing to talk and listen to each other. And again, it's people skills, listening to each other and finding the best solution for the issues that are going to be facing United now and forever. You know, a pessimist sees difficulty in every opportunity, and an optimist sees opportunity in every difficulty. And I think with that positive approach, if we get our directors to think that way, we can conquer anything, because the talent obviously is here. And so let me just say this, you know, my training really basically was in philosophy, and I'm still into that, I guess. The positive thinker sees the invisible, feels the intangible, and achieves the impossible. Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony. Diane, your closing statement?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I agree with Anthony. I think anybody here would make a great board member. And, that doesn't mean I don't want to be, but we do have such great talent, and I'm happy to see that. That's so nice. So I would like to just comment a little bit about the insurance, because I know it is a big issue, and I'm trying to sell my house to move into a smaller one. And so, without having that funding available, you just don't know. Does everybody have cash? A lot of people do. But, this was sort of a surprise to us, because there has always been, I guess, somewhat of an issue that Fannie Mae wanted 100% replacement value, to buy loans or to negotiate loans. And so, we were reassessed, and our value is very, very high. Impossible for us to buy insurance for full replacement value, because of maybe the loss of paradise, or what happened in Florida, with the collapse of the building, that they just think at any time we could have a catastrophic event that would totally wipe out Laguna Woods. Now, it's kind of impossible. We're not in the same situation as some of the places up in Napa, or, we have, a lot of cement around us, I mean, I don't think everything could be wiped out in one swoop. So, we're going to have to fight this, and we do have bodies, that do, fight for condominium associations. We're not the only ones affected, that this has happened to. So I'm hoping that, our legal team and other people, activists involved, can get to Sacramento or where we have to go and try to fight to get Fannie Mae to accept us, because I don't think we're going to have one catastrophic event that's going to cause us to have $1 billion to replace everything. And it's a good thing for us to get our own insurance. I have insurance to cover my property inside, to cover an assessment, so look into that. Elsie pointed me out to some weaknesses I had in my insurance, and so I appreciate it. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Diane. Lenny?
Yeah, thank you very much, Juanita. Sort of my closing statement, I think that one of the things that I'd like to see us do is lower HOA assessments, and they will help a lot. Residents of Laguna Woods won't have to make a choice as to what to pay with their limited income, whether to choose from paying for drugs or food or HOA fees. As HOA fees are lowered, also, demand would increase for retirees to choose Laguna Woods as their number one choice in retirement. That's what we hope, because that will help improve property values. Based on my outline above, the number one reason I'm running for the board is to use my experience as president and treasurer of United, along with my financial background, to better control HOA assessments. But aside from HOA assessments, I'm running for the board to help resolve the insurance issue so that NCB will continue to loan on our properties, without which co-ops will only be sold based on all cash. And that would eliminate 20% of our market. I, for one, bought into Laguna Woods as by way of a loan with NCB. So I wouldn't qualify to buy into Laguna Woods because I don't have all cash. And that's the same with 20% of the people buying into Laguna Woods. So we really have to resolve this issue. We also have to resolve another issue, and some of you may or may not know this, but it takes a long time to prepare the real estate submissions that are submitted to the board for approvals. It's now taking up to 6 weeks to prepare those for the boards. The impact, and last year it took about 3 weeks. 2 years ago, it took 3 weeks. So there's some reason why it's taking longer. I'm not sure the reason, but it's one thing I hope to help out with. What that does is it's impact the successful sale of properties. And it also delays the introduction of the transfer fees, which is a lifeblood of our community. The last thing I want to do, if I am selected to be on the board, is to try to unify the board, improve the communications, working relationships with other boards, GRF, and VMS. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lenny. Maggie, your closing statement?
Okay, as I say in my ballot, I study issues, I am diligent and trustworthy, I step up to do the work. I consider the welfare of all residents equally. I never prefer one over another. I will prefer the many over the single every time. That's my duty as a director. It's hard. It's hard. The voices of the underfunded are heartbreaking. I wish we had a relocation office to help them find another place to go when they cannot afford here. I know it's frightening and devastating to be running out of money. And I feel maybe we could establish some kind of social services office, I don't know, something to help people make a transition that will be very, very difficult. When I moved here first, people just moved back in with their families after a few years. All my bridge friends moved back to their families, back to Texas, back to wherever. But families are no longer having the space or the finances to support the seniors. So this is a serious question to me, is where do these people go? But the other serious question is, can we defund United or any mutual or the village in order to help those people stay? And my answer is no. I liked the process for the budget this year, where every single line, every single issue was explained and questions were asked and answered about everything. And we went over things that hadn't quite been spent in other years and dug out that money and put it back in. It was very helpful. It was very useful. It's a crucial time. But as the code says, my loyalty must be to the success of the corporation over the single resident or member. And so I must follow that. But it breaks my heart, but I must follow that. And so I will work as hard as I can to get every United board member and every board member in the village to start working together instead of working on some special thing over here and here. We need to open our ears a little more and speak with softer voices and prepare better for the hard times ahead. And so I would ask you to consider looking at the budget over and over again. We do it all the time. And I ask you to say, is it worth cutting this? How much will this hurt us? Thank you.
Thank you, Maggie. Mark, it's your turn for your closing statement.
Thank you. Last thing I kind of want to say is that, during my long history of alcoholism, I lost a lot of time. And now my philosophy is that I am making up for lost time. I'm planning on making the last third of my life the best third of my life. And I want to be known for doing good things. And included with that was one thing I did do was when COVID hit and everything was locked down, I started playing music in the park, and that got very popular. And it's now turned into something awesome involving multiple musicians and live music every weekend at Passwood Park next to Clubhouse 2. I think that's one very, very good thing I did, and it made people feel good, and that made me feel good. And I want to be known as a good board member as well, and I think it will be a good board member. And there's a number of reasons for this, and number one is I'm very smart. I went to the University of Minnesota Law School, which was the 19th ranked law school at the time. For everyone in my class of 1992, I scored in the 96th percentile of the law school admission test, or the LSAT. I plan on being a very pro-resident director. I'm going to take all issues and complaints very seriously. I do have a couple of goals. I have a short-term goal and a long-term goal. My short-term goal is the problem we have in Aliso Creek Park. We have 2 giant pine trees there, over 100 feet, and at the top of those trees grow these pods. And these pods are about the size of footballs, and they weigh about 9 pounds. And these pods fall from the top of the trees and land on the ground. If they ever hit somebody, it's going to either kill them or maim them horribly. And I know for a fact this issue's been talked about and nothing's been done. If anything were to happen, the 1 in a million chance, that would be very bad news on a liability front. And I think it's a very easy fix. I think we install shrubs sufficient to keep people 10 feet away from the trunk. That would take care of it. Probably do it for less than $1,000.
30 seconds.
My long-term goal. I'm sorry, what?
30 seconds.
Okay, thanks. My long-term goal involves the biggest complaint I've heard since I've been here, and that is, why are there tons and tons of empty buses riding around our village? I think we should do what they do in Sun City and have a combination of employees and volunteers to give people rides to and from wherever they want to go. That would save us a lot on our $2 million bus budget.
Thank you. Pat, would you give us your closing statement, please?
Yes, I sure will. That book that we were talking about, the Blue Book, it contains a lot of information. You all need to have one, and you need to have a new one every year. It contains all the corporation codes beside the David Sterling and all other codes that are still appropriate for Laguna Woods. Now, as far as the percentage of money that an insurance would have to pay out, that's very important. But I do believe that the Community Association Institute, which is the company that provides us with those books, would be able to do some lobbying for us. And I think we should go and talk with them. I really do. I think that might help us, if nothing else, help us to get them to lobby for us. They have lobbied in the past and been successful. And here we really need a lobby situation, because we simply can't have all of our houses having to be paid by cash. That's simply not reasonable. I don't have a lot more to say, except that I'm looking forward to join the board of United again. I've been with it several times already, and I know I can do a good job for them, and I hope they all vote for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pat. And last but certainly not least, Pearl, can we have your concluding statement?
In closing, I'd like to give my sincere thanks to my volunteers who were willing to put out hard work and their time for this election. We had 40-plus volunteers, some of whom I have never met before. It was my honor to have an opportunity to work with you. And for those who are cheering for me from home, thank you very much for your unselfish support. As a newcomer, I have a lot to learn and I have a lot to read. I want all of you to know that I'm taking this position very seriously. I'm committed to work hard, and I'm committed to invest my time to learn and to read and to prepare myself to participate future meetings to become a part of solutions. We must realize that the board and the residents are in the same team, with the same goal and with the same interest. There's no room for personal agenda, personal interest, or any other political reasons. By establishing the financial stability of the corporation, we are looking after our residents because we are shareholders, and it's very important that we take care of the stability of the corporations. I'm looking forward to work on our real problems with real solutions, with common sense approach. Please give me a vote. My name is Pearl Lee. Thank you.
Thank you, Pearl. I hope we have given you a good overview of the candidates that you have to vote for. There are 5 seats available on the United Board in the coming year. Your ballots need to be in by the end of this month. And don't forget to sign the pink envelope, very important. If you have any questions of any of the candidates, again, you can go to the info@lagunawoodsvillage.com and put your question in, and it will be distributed to the various candidates. Thank you all for your attendance today, and I think we are finished, so I will adjourn this.
Didn't the Raymond provide a statement? Didn't Raymond provide a statement? I thought he provided a statement.
They did their closing statements, Andre.